and welcome back. Chapter 4. The buzzing of her cell jolted Eva out of her sleep. Squinting, she looked at her bedside clock and frowned. Oh God. It was already well past 9, and the last thing she remembered was throwing a chopstick at the TV as the late night host made a joke about her morning show meltdown. Maybe taking her best friend Corey's well meaning advice of celebrating her newfound freedom with champagne and the comfort of a new man wasn't the best idea. Though she hadn't gone so far as to hunt out a one night stand, she went full on with Corey's suggestion of the bubbly and uncharacteristically drank alone. Declining Corey's offer to come over and share in her misery and bubbles, Eva assured her friend that she was fine, only exhausted over it all. And as for the man part of the advice, that was taken care of by delivering General Tso from the Chinese restaurant down the block and her dusted off nightstand playmate, Mr. Motivator. I just caught on to that. Or would have been if she gotten some use out of him in the past year and his batteries weren't dead. Seems the day was just full of disappointment male members. Eva let out a sigh. Maybe she should have let Corey come over and possibly lend her a bit more backbone. They could have gone over to Kev's place and done a bit of tag team ass kicking. At least give him a good tell-off. Thinking back, though her friend was loyal to a fault and followed the girl code of not outwardly bashing her choice of mate, she knew Kevin wasn't high on Corey's list of favorite people. And Eva knew that if she were seeing things through Corey's jade-colored lenses, she probably would have had her eyes open sooner and seen Kevin for what he was up to before she had even stepped foot on that studio set and made a complete ass out of herself. No matter, done was done, and she had to deal with it. She told Corey she'd make a point to see her before she left for work. Another thought that brought Eva's spirit low was that her friend was about to be off sailing the globe, living the carefree life, at least for a while, working for a luxury cruise company. Eva smiled, though. Knowing Corey, there would be a new man in every port. There was no way Corey was getting tied down by, let her tell it, a ridiculous convention like marriage. Thinking back, the joke the comedian made last night was kind of funny and would be downright hilarious to her if it wasn't at her expense. Besides, Corey was right. All this would blow over and she'd be yesterday's news soon enough. The phone buzzed again and Eva moaned. She couldn't remember the last time she had slept so hard or so deep. It must have had something to do with washing down that last bit of chicken with half a bottle of Prosecco. Ignoring the phone, Eva stretched her body long, arched her back, and kicked her legs out, exploring the delicious coolness of the sheets on the right side of the bed. Inching toward the middle, she rolled onto her back and stretched wider still, making an X shape. Her long limbs just about hit all four corners of the mattress at once. She smiled. Oddly, it felt kind of good to wake up alone for a change. Kevin was a notorious space and cover hog, not to mention he made a lot of noise when he got up for his 6 a.m. session with his trainer. She hated to admit it, but this, she thought, reaching over and caressing the empty space where the indent from Kevin's body used to be, this, maybe, she could get used to. The buzzing started again, and Eva turned once more, her face hit with a hard shaft of sunlight, causing her to squint. She pushed her legs arched out wide and let out a long sigh before quickly pulling her leg back in again, tight to her body, the coolness now giving her a surprising chill, reminding her that having the bed all to herself came at a price. Reaching over to the side of the bed, Eva picked up the phone to look at the caller ID. No more than half hoping it was Kevin calling to apologize, saying he'd come back to his senses and was ready to make amends. It wasn't. A knot immediately clenched up in her belly as she saw her mother's office number. Of course it was her. She wanted to see how she was this morning, but also she wanted answers. answers to questions that Eva knew she did not have. Not to mention, what could she say to Place, her mother, after her horrendous public meltdown? They were a PR firm, for goodness sakes. Image was everything with them. And not even when her mother had been through her worst with her father and his death did she let it show through to the rest of the world. No, she took her lumps and shed her tears in private, and in the process taught Eva how to be strong in the face of what seemed an unimaginable heartbreak and embarrassment. And here she was, her only daughter, her legacy, and with a 5-minute TV segment and a muted line from a guy who probably wasn't worth the effort she put in, she gone off and lost it. Though she didn't want to face it, part of Eva knew that whatever questions or perhaps disappointment her mother directed her way was warranted. She'd asked if she and Kev had been having troubles. No, nothing beyond the usual, or so she thought. She wanted to know how come Eva didn't see this coming. She also wanted to know what her plans were to fix this and get her reputation, and more importantly, the firm's reputation, back on track. All perfectly fine queries to which at the moment Eva had no answers. It wasn't like Kevin was blowing up her phone or knocking down her door or even using his key to come in and apologize, ask for her back, or at least give her a valid reason for why he broke up with her on national television. No, it seemed he was just done. No calls, texts, or last-minute chase down with words of love or begging her forgiveness. Eva guessed he had said all he had to say on the air yesterday. And all his talk of love, well, that was the past. Mere words said when emotions needed to be manipulated. The phone buzzed again, and this time Eva looked down and saw from the caller ID that it was her mother's assistant, Lance. She shook her head, so Mom was switching tactics. She knew Eva wouldn't ignore Lance forever, since her mom would have him calling her every 5 minutes on the minute until she picked up. She might as well get this over with and put the poor guy out of his misery. Eva swiped him over. Yes, Lance. Nope, I'm perfectly fine, just running a bit late. Tell Her Majesty I'll be in shortly. No, I don't need you to send a car, but thank you. Rolling over, she closed her eyes and treated herself to 60 more seconds of peace and quiet before the inevitable avalanche to come. What am I doing here? Aiden gut told him this was wrong, but still he was here. Fighting against the tight collar that gripped his neck, he finally gave in and ripped off the offending tie, shoving it into his suit pocket. The cute redhead receptionist didn't even try to hide her smirk as she peered at him and Carter over the top of her sleek maple workstation. Aiden gave her a smile and took a moment to let his mind do its usual wanderings when taken in by a pretty woman. But his smile quickly changed to a frown when all that came up was an image of smooth caramel skin and creamy white pearls. He ran his hands through his now shorter hair, cropped just this morning for today's meeting. What the hell? What was he doing thinking about her? Again. It was bad enough that he barely gotten a moment's rest last night, playing and then replaying their awful first meeting and that surprisingly seductive kiss that she'd hit him with. Still, it was maddening. Updos and twin sets were definitely not his type. Besides, he knew what sort of trouble she and her pearls were. Shit, he was just now getting proper feeling back to his nether regions and planning to keep them out of her knee range at all costs. So once again, that brought up the question, what was he doing here? Really, man? You can't keep it together and look good for an hour? Carter said from his side, bringing Aiden's thoughts back to the matter at hand. Aiden let his eyes sweep to his friend, who looked completely comfortable in his sharply tailored suit, tie notched just right as he sat casually perched on the receptionist area most uncomfortable white leather couch. I'm fine, and it's not like I need a tie to take this meeting or look good. Carter's subtle nod let him know he had him there. But still, he was uncomfortable, and it had nothing to do with his attire. Honestly, It's not like you need me here. You can handle this pitch yourself. It's bad enough you wrangled me into this idea of yours. Wrangled? Carter said, his brows drawing together. Aren't you the convenient revisionist? When I told you the segment idea and suggested Rick Lancer for the lead producer, you practically jumped at the chance to take over and handle it yourself. So now you've got it. It's all yours, boss. Aiden frowned at the mention of Rick, the self-proclaimed reality king's name. I don't like being played, Carter, and you know as well as I do that calling out Rick was a play to pull me in. After what I said about not wanting to use her footage and being exploited by the show, you knew there was no way I let a snake like Rick within 100 feet of the job. The man would chew her up, then spit her out, leaving her with no meat left on the bone. Yeah, but it would all make for great TV, and that's what we're after right now. Ratings. It's what the networks needs. Aiden let out a frustrated breath as Carter shook his head and continued. I don't know what's gotten into you. It's as if you've gone soft. We're in TV business here, not the hand-holding business, and you're home now, not on the battlefield. That female firecracker in pearls does not need saving. Aiden shot Carter a look with his last comment, and Carter tempered his next words. Besides, I now have to fill 3 hours of morning with news, and barring, God forbid, a war on our shores, there is not enough real news to go around. Carter put his finger up and did air quotes. And there is only so much breaking news one can do on the latest celebrity meltdown. We've got to get creative. Aiden shifted. Fine, I hear you. But celebs are one thing. It's a different story when you screw over real people. Carter gave him a hard look. You know as well as do I that she stopped being a real person as soon as she signed that waiver. He smiled. Besides, she's in PR. She know the ropes. We're not dealing with a wounded bird here. If anyone should be wounded, it's you. She gave it to you good. Aiden crossed his legs and groaned. Don't remind me. That she sure did. But despite his words, he was still torn. More than anything, he wanted to walk away, to steer as far afield from this project as he could, continue his getting to know you company tour, but something wouldn't let him do it. When Carter told him his idea to keep up the pressure and to train a spotlight on the literally ball-busting Eva Ward, at first he had laughed. Stupidly, he had even chimed in with thoughts on the concept, a fast-paced dating show, something to make her follow through on her final words about still getting married anyway as she stormed out of the studio. But he should have known that Carter would pounce right on it, quickly calling in a production team to work up ideas and then wanting to name Rick Lancer as lead on-site producer. But as soon as Aiden heard Rick's name, something in him wouldn't let it lie. Rick was notorious life ruiner, a real piece of work, a part-time bodybuilder and a full-time ass. Rick made no secret about his womanizing ways, and for some reason just the thought of him in close quarters with the hot-lipped ice princess instantly sent Aiden blood boiling. Like her or not, she'd been through enough and didn't deserve the likes of Rick invading her space. So before he knew it, Aiden was stepping up to take the lead on a project that was out of his new normal of war zones and guns, and would have him playing backseat matchmaker to a woman in whom he literally met his match. Just by being here and entertaining the idea, he probably deserved every bit of busting he got from Carter on this one. Since it was business and Carter was getting what he wanted out of him, his old friend was keeping it to a minimum. But Aiden was sure it was coming. Carter knew him too well, and there was no way he let a good riffing opportunity lie. Aiden was sure he'd been played. Hell, if he was honest, he was probably getting played by Carter yesterday when he just so happened to have him on the set when it all went down. It had all worked out a little too well, and Carter gave in way too easily and agreed in less time than it took for him to zone in on the perfect tie at Brooks Brothers. Oh well, screw it. What was done was done. At least now, if she agreed and the project went through, he could be sure the Ice Princess came out of this ordeal without too many dings or chips, and he'd be sure to protect himself from getting run over in the process. Snapping back to the moment, Aiden saw a tall, broad-bodied dude with dark skin and even darker eyes, who looked like he could be bouncing at any of the city's toughest clubs, come out to the reception area and give the saucy redhead a wide smile. He then turned toward Carter and Aiden, and the smile instantly vanished. "If you gentlemen will follow me, Miss Ward will see you now." Carter shot up and gave the guy a broad smile. "After you, my good man." The big guy leveled him with a stony gaze. "Yep, definitely bouncing material." Aiden got up slowly, frowning. He resisted wiping his sweaty palms on his suit pants. He never sweated unless he was about to get into a tight spot. And right now, going up against Valerie Ward, Eva's mother, he had a feeling he was about to do just that. Eva stepped into the elevator of Parker Building in Madison Avenue, where the Wards Group branding and PR consulting offices were housed. She immediately noticed the dawn of reception in the eyes of one of the riders, a petite strawberry blonde, who at first looked wide-eyed, and then that awful cloud of sympathy washed over her features, causing Eva's stomach to churn at the same time as her anger bubbled up. Damn it! She'd been getting that look all morning, and she was frankly over it. First her doorman, then the barista at her favorite coffee shop, not to mention the look from all the other patrons. Hell, they were just finally getting her coffee order right. Would she really have to now switch to the other Starbucks all the way up the street, a whole block and a half away? And then there was the cab driver. Eva twisted her coffee cup as she pointedly tried to break eye contact with the blonde and looked toward the closing doors, catching her reflection in the shiny chrome. It will be fine, she told herself. Outwardly, she was the same as she had been the day before. She chose her slim gray pants and white silk blouse carefully. She put her hair up in a smooth chignon, and her face looked flawless, with just the right balance of understated makeup. On any other day, she would blend in perfectly with the bustling New York morning crowd. Shifting her sachet in the crook of her arm, she looked up into the polished chrome reflection. She caught a hint of defeat in her weary brown eyes. Just not on this day. Eva looked back down and pretended to concentrate on the coffee cup's familiar siren logo, then ran her hand along the edge, tracing the cover's rim. The sight of her now bare left ring finger caused her to pause, as she swallowed down on the simmering anger that was threatening to rise. The ring of her dream currently sat idle in a silver dish on her dresser, cold and alone, a diamond sparkling with no one to sparkle for. It somehow seemed an affront against her beliefs and the god of good jewelry that it should be there twinkling all alone and not on her finger being admired as it should. She thought once again on how Kevin had not called since the show. Coward. Maybe she should have changed the locks on her apartment before coming into work. Thinking it over now, leaving the ring where she did was probably not the best idea. She wouldn't put it past Kevin wimpy behind and try and sneak into her place to gather his few belongings when he knew she was at work. He was never big on confrontation, which is what made the TV breakup so surprising, and then again, maybe not so much. She was sure he wasn't expecting her to go off like she did. It was probably his version of the restaurant breakup, a way to keep it public and minimize the scene. Eva let out a snort. A lot of good that did. Right now, it would have been kinder if he sent her a text, or at least gone old school Sex in the City and broken up with her with a post-it or something equally impersonal. Eva stared at her finger and made a mental note to call her doorman and put Kevin on the no entry list. She'd be damned if he got that ring back after what he done. And besides, she paid for half the damn ring anyway. Really? Not that anyone but she and Kevin knew that. How embarrassing would it be if that news got out and she was thought of as a sad case now? If folks knew that, she'd be positively tragic. Kevin took her to pick out her ring, and when she did, he steered her towards less expensive flawed diamonds, as if starting off their life together with a flawed symbol of commitment was acceptable. What a fool she was, listening to his crap about the ring not mattering, all the while happily picking out the best of everything when it came to himself. There was a soft tap on her shoulder, and unfortunate the sign escaped her lips before Eva could stop it. Damn, the strawberry blonde. She knew it was a mistake to let her emotions show, but Eva had been stopped 4 times already that morning. Just how many people really did watch that stupid morning show? Weren't they supposed to be the number 2 in ratings? She shook her head. First it was Carlos the doorman giving his kind regrets over Kevin. Then it was the old woman with the 2 poodles who stopped her not 2 seconds later to tell her that she had an eligible grandson. Next it was the girl at Starbucks who gave her a loud condescending condolences over the espresso machine, while the rest of the coffee shop nodded and looked at her like she was terminally ill. All she wanted was coffee, light with an extra shot, extra sweet, hold the comments. Was that too much to ask? The topper was the cab driver. She didn't have the heart to jump on public transportation today. Who pronounced what Kevin did as foul-ass and low down in his thick Caribbean accent? Eva just gave a polite nod. She wouldn't voice it, but she had to agree on that one. When Eva asked the driver if he watched the show, he said no. But he got to see the highlights when his daughter showed him the YouTube clip. Perfection. She was going viral. There was another tap on her shoulder, and Eva braced herself as she turned around and gave an innocent smile to the strawberry blonde woman, looking at her like the second coming of Jennifer Aniston or something. It is you. I knew it, the woman said, her voice echoing off the steel panel walls. It was awful what he did to you. I'm sure it was going to be a beautiful wedding. I voted for you two, you know. Thanks? What else was she supposed to say? The other 3 people in the elevator all stared at her now. She turned back and watched the floor numbers light up. 12, 13, 14. It was just terrible, the woman continued loudly over her shoulder. Did you really have no clue? I mean, really? Not a clue that he would dump you like that on national TV? Eva bit her bottom lip to keep from screaming. She could feel the eyes of the other passengers boring into the back of her head. Her face began to flame. 15, 16. The woman tapped her again. I said, did you really have no clue? Eva turned around, fighting to keep a tight rein on her simmering temper and feeling tears threaten. She thought of her image and how she needed to focus on rebuilding it before she spoke. No, I didn't. The blonde shook her head. Wow, who would have guessed? And here I was thinking all these reality shows were scripted. It kind of renews my faith. Ding, 19, thank God. Eva let out a breath and smiled broadly at the woman. Well, I'm glad my downfall helped. The woman's face fell in confusion as Eva stepped off the elevator. To restore your faith in television, that is. Thanks. The woman yelled at her back as the doors closed and Eva stepped into the waiting area of the ward group, only to be greeted by the open arms and lush bosom of Kimberly, the receptionist, as she ran around her desk and pulled her into an uncomfortable hug. There now, you're going to be fine, Kim said, petting her like one might a fallen toddler with a scraped knee. Oh, I know I will be fine. You, on the other hand, may lose that hand if you don't stop petting me like that. That's the end of the chapter, y'all. Okay, so, again, I feel like this chapter was pointless. Um, I didn't have too many giggles. It could have been shorter. And the only I think question I have is how would y'all have handled this if y'all were in her shoes and people kept coming up to you saying, what happened? Like me myself, I would have been snapped. I'm so sarcastic when it comes to people in my business. And if they feel like they could, be bold enough to come talk to me or say what they gotta say and I didn't warn it and I don't know them, oh, you about to get this sarcasm and you gonna shut up talking to me. But anyway, so it has been found out that he cheating? Or could he been talking to her mama? No, I'm just joking. No, because the guy said he overheard him in the last chapter talking to a female, telling her he's going to break it off. So is that the reason why he broke it off? And we now know why he did it on national TV, because he was, I guess, goaded into doing it, and his dumb ass did it. But yeah, so, and why is she so concerned about him not calling? I don't get that part. Like, if you know he's no good, and you've been knowing it for 6 years, and he broke it with you on national TV, why would you care about him calling you? And another thing I must agree with, she should have changed them locks, because that's what I would have did. As soon as a breakup, if I was living with a dude, changing locks, changing passwords, getting you off of everything. Like, okay, especially at that magnitude. So when I say peace, I say peace. Okay, well, that's all I got for chapter 4. I don't have any other questions, so I shall see you in the next chapter, which is chapter 5. Let's see if it get any better. Bye.